Good evening, this is ET Now. You're with the India Development Debate. Straight to the big topic we're debating tonight. The verdict in Gujarat is loud and clear. The upcoming assembly elections will be fought on the farmlands. And among the states that go to polls ahead of the 2019 general election is Madhya Pradesh, a state that witnessed violent farmer protests earlier this year. So is the case with Rajasthan, whose farmers are in dire straits thanks to scanty rains, poor crop output and low prices for their produce. One thing is for sure, Budget 2018 will be front-loaded with a lot of goodies for the farmer who's fast losing his patience. While this is a welcome move, ET now believes it is time to look beyond loan waivers and fertiliser subsidies and come up with a comprehensive strategy to revive the agriculture sector. It is time to raise some crucial questions. How sustainable, rather effective, is the support price mechanism? Can Indian farmers continue to depend on the rain gods for their irrigation needs? Moreover, isn't it time the government drew up a comprehensive package to revive the agriculture sector? On the India Development Debate, we've got an erudite panel today to discuss the distress in farmlands and what really needs to be done. Joining me on the show this evening is GVL Narasimha Rao, National Spokesperson of the BJP, Charan Singh Sapra, Spokesperson of the Congress, Siraj Hussain, former Agriculture Secretary and expert in the field, Devinder Sharma, Food and Agriculture Policy Expert, and R. Jagannathan, Editorial Director of the Swarajya magazine. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this debate on ET Now, the India Development Debate. Let me start with you, GVL Narasimha Rao. Even as the BJP scored an impressive victory in both Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh, would you concede that, that there is a story of rural distress that's playing out, that the farmers have, in a sense, voted against the BJP, voted for the Congress, especially in crucial agrarian belts like Saurashtra? Is that a cause of concern, and would you concede that something needs to be done?
I think the question of the distress in the sector, I think that's different from the political question that you have asked me. And I think it would be dishonest to say that farmers have voted more for the Congress party. I think it's a dishonest conclusion, because nearly 60% of population in Gujarat is rural, heavily dependent on agriculture, and we have scored overall 49% vote in the state. And that all that cannot come from 40% urban population of Gujarat. Therefore, it's a very, I think, specious conclusion for anyone to draw. But certainly there are areas where farmers have had a problem of getting the MSP. The government has come up with price procurement interventions. For example, in groundnut, I think in many districts of Saurashtra, where I have personally visited, government has actually started procuring. But obviously, all this process could not be completed in the run-up to the elections. And this process will continue until March. Nearly state government has set aside 500 crores for buying groundnut from the farmers at the MSP. So certainly the farmers were not getting the MSP in the open market, and that is certainly a cause of concern for them. And those who could hold on to their crop, I think, will certainly get their full price. And some others may have sold it a little lower at the market price. And this is the same story in all states. I think let's be honest about it.
Fair enough.
I think in Karnataka, where the Congress is in power, which again is a groundnut growing state, in Karnataka, the state government has not spent 1 rupee on this. Whereas the market interventions of Gujarat have clearly shown that we are a party that cares for farmers, and that explains the massive mandate for the BJP for the 6th time in a row. And Gujarat is a state that has experienced agricultural prosperity over 2 decades. A 6-fold increase in agricultural output and a 3-fold increase in value of agricultural output is something that no state could match.
GVL, I don't think anyone is going to dispute
a lot of prosperity
in the last
10 years. But if you look at 2 decades, no state could even compare with Gujarat.
Okay. Point noted. Let me take it to Congress. And, the idea is not to make this a political debate. The idea is to really look for solutions for the farm sector. And the reason we have political representatives is to find out if it's something that's politically palatable. But I do want to get opening comments from my panelists. And, Charan Singh Sapra, what's your response to the point that GVL made, that it's he used the word dishonest. Probably one could argue it's an oversimplistic interpretation to say that, oh, farmers have voted against the BJP and voted for the Congress, because even as the finance minister told ET Now just yesterday, the stress is largely with one specific area, the belt of Saurashtra and Kutch, where the Congress has of course done very well. And part reasons, one of course groundnut prices, like Jeeval pointed out, cotton prices again, they've crashed drastically over the last 3-4 years. So it's not, is it fair to draw this conclusion that there is a story of rural distress and that the farmers of the country have rejected the BJP? Is that an unfair conclusion?
See, I'm afraid Mr. GVL is having wrong facts with him as far as the results of Gujarat is concerned. What he's talking about is he's also including the semi-urban areas into the rural area. It should not be that. See, the rural areas, 2/3 of the seats have been won by Congress party, which is the fact nobody can deny, even GVL cannot deny. The farmers have largely supported Congress party because Bharatiya Janata Party had promised them MSP plus 50%, which they could not keep the promise. They had promised them enough water, though they made Narmada, but they could not construct minor and major canals through which the water can reach the fields or probably the villages. The BJP in 22 years failed in that. The farmer was in tremendous distress. He had no loan waiver, though Bharatiya Janata Party gave a loan waiver to the industrialists to the tune of 1,54,000 crores, but they did not give a loan waiver to the farmers of Gujarat. So these are the issues whereby the real farmer in Gujarat was under distress. He was worried about his MSP, he was worried about his daily wages, he was worried about his daily spending. So that's why the farmer has grossly voted for Congress party, and we have been able to win maximum seats in Saurashtra and Kutch, where it has more of the rural areas. So we have not been able to do good in urban area. That's also the fact which Congress party has to agree. But as far as agrarian crisis is concerned, since the Bharatiya Janata Party has come into power in center, there has been seen that they have not been paying so much of attention towards the farmers issue. Like there has been a deliberate neglect of farmers issue.
Okay, Charan Singh Sapra, you made your point.
Let me complete.
Okay, very quickly please,
In last 3 years, they have not been able to help various state governments who have been demanding. Like Tamil Nadu had demanded 39,565 crores. They didn't get anything. Karnataka has demanded 8,113 crores. They got only 1,782 crores. Andhra Pradesh, which is supporting Bharatiya Janata Party, they demanded 2,281 crores, but they haven't got anything. So that's what I'm trying to say. I've given you an example that Bharatiya Janata Party under Narendra Modi is not serious about farmers. They are more serious about helping the industrialists and not the farmers.
Okay, let me take you to Devendra Sharma, who's been a sort of a critic of a lot of policies of this government and a lot of political approach to the issue of agriculture. Mr. Devendra Sharma, how are you reading this verdict, and do you believe that this is going to give a renewed thrust to the agriculture sector? Do you expect a rural pivot when it comes to policy focus?
Well, I think let's be very clear, farmers have been taken for a ride by successive governments over the last few decades. And what has emerged in the last 3 years is that this government is no different when it comes to agriculture. So I'm not surprised that the kind of distress that prevails in the country, and they have simply ignored it. I must say, I've used the word ignored it all these the past 3 years. And I thought they should have woken up to the crisis which was building up in the country, which was huge in this country. And instead they kept on talking about agriculture, but didn't really do anything worthwhile for agriculture. Now that's one thing. Having said that, if this verdict is being seen as a kind of a message which is loud and clear that the farmers are waking up, I think this is a remarkable verdict, and this should wake up this government that if you behave, if you go into self-denial the way you have been doing it all these years, all these months, then of course your 2019 would be very, very difficult for this government. We know that in the next few months we are going to have elections in Madhya Pradesh, in Rajasthan and so on. These are predominantly agriculture states, and agriculture has been in these two states, Rajasthan and in Madhya Pradesh, also in terrible crisis. And I don't think a simple tinkering like providing a minimum support price at the time of election for groundnut or cotton, I mean, these are things which these ploys have been, going around for years. And I think that clearly shows that the farmers are not that foolish now. They understand that at the time of elections, these governments will come up with some sop here and some sop there, but that's not a permanent solution. If you remember in 2014, when the Prime Minister himself was campaigning, that time he used to say very predominantly and loudly that when I come into power, farmers, I need your vote because I will give farmers cost plus 50% as recommended by Swaminathan Commission. And that's the reason, perhaps that's the dominant reason why the nation as such voted, rural areas voted conclusively and, for the BJP. But after that, they gave an affidavit in Supreme Court saying, sorry, we can't do it. Now, this is going back on the promise, and I think this has hurt the farmers. Farmers across the country know that this government is not serious in helping them or bailing them out, and I think I will not be surprised if we see more and more of what happened in Gujarat happening in other states, and I think that would be a very positive sign for this country's economy.
Okay, this cost plus 50% formula, and I do want to get into that in some detail. We've got experts in the panel. We have a point of view on that as well. Not sure if that's necessarily the way to go about it. I know you have a strong point of view, but before I get to that, quick comment from Jaggi, really on how do you interpret, how do you think that this government, that Prime Minister Modi and Finance Minister Jaitley will read the mandate in Gujarat, and do you think that do you expect a more renewed policy thrust when it comes to the agriculture sector and to the rural crisis?
Yes, I mean, I think the fact that the BJP did badly in most rural areas and that the agrarian stress and distress actually upended a lot of their plans, especially in Kutch and Saurashtra, will make the government think twice about what they need to do in the agriculture sector. But unfortunately, I think most governments tend to take the wrong remedies, even though the problems of the agriculture sector are deep-rooted and they need a long-term sustained kind of solution. And the kind of solutions that are being bandied about, which include things like farm loan waivers and higher MSPs and increasing subsidies here and there and this cost plus 50% and all. These are non-solutions. You cannot run any economy on the basis of cost plus 50% in any industry, leave alone agriculture. So I think the solutions are obvious and they are long-term. You need a short-term safety net for farmers, but long-term you have to move towards 3 or 4 important things. One, create the investments in rural infrastructure, including cold chains and other things on which you have to spend money. Then create a pathway out of unviable agriculture. People with half an acre, 1 hectare, up to 1 hectare cannot be viable farmers. You have to increase productivity. You have to create jobs outside agriculture or in the agricultural supply chain so that they can move out of direct agriculture. The third thing is there must be a good forward market for agriculture and an open thing where farmers are able to sell in advance of the produce so that they don't have to come to the mandi and find that the potato that they expected 10 rupees for is now suddenly 50 paise a kilo. I mean, these are the things you need to do. Then you have a universal crop insurance which needs to be provided at a very basic cost. These are the kind of solutions you need to give. You cannot have a system where you subsidize every single thing from rural power to diesel to fertilizer to the thing. No industry can survive on the basis of perpetual thing. It's better to give a farm income support, abolish these subsidies and tell the farmer, look, you find a better way of doing this while we support you in the long term. So the solutions are quite different from what will probably be produced. And yeah.
You're saying the solutions are, Jaggi, you've come up with some fantastic solutions and they may not be politically palatable. I'm sure many in the panel will not agree with you, though I reckon Siraj Hussain's probably going to agree with you. Siraj Hussain, do you agree with Jaggi there in saying that some of the solutions to the problem facing the agriculture sector are long-term, are painful politically? There are no easy solutions. There is no quick fix, and typically the quick fixes have failed us for 60 years and will continue to fail us.
No, I agree that there are several things which are required to be done to the agriculture sector, and these include reforms of various kinds, including direct income transfer for various subsidies, because we were expecting, the country was expecting that the new government in 2014 will take initiatives for direct benefit transfer of fertilizer subsidy, food subsidy, etc. Unfortunately, it did not happen. But there are a couple of things which can be done, which I expect this government will now do before the next parliamentary elections, and that relates to reforms in APMC. It is not very clearly understood why the state governments, which are ruled by the same party, have not been persuaded to allow freer trading of agricultural commodities. Unlike any other commodity, the agricultural commodities are subject to so much of restrictions in trading, sale, purchase. If a food processing company wants to buy potato from farmers directly, it cannot do it. And even if in some states it has been allowed to do it, it has to deposit mandi fee. Mandi has not provided any facility yet. Mandi fee has to be given. So there are a lot of things which can be done in the short term also. Another example, if I am to give one more example, is why do these states take so much time in assessing the damage to crops when there are floods? Tamil Nadu has shown last year that the assessment can be finished in 1 month, but why are other states not able to do it? So it is not that everything is long term, but I agree with Mr. Jagannathan, and we have written about it, that agriculture, the problems related to it, since such a large number of people are involved, have to be solved by having a longer term policy. And it is not that we have not seen high growth. Madhya Pradesh between 2005-6 and 14-15, Madhya Pradesh has shown a growth rate of about 10%, 9.67%, which was the highest in the country. Gujarat grew about 6.3%. Of course, it was on the back of high global prices. The cotton prices were very high, groundnut prices were high, soybean prices were high. That is true that it was due to several domestic and international factors. But the policy framework has to take into account that there will be some bad years where country will be hit by drought and floods, and there may be some good years. So the policy framework, as Mr. Sharma keeps writing, has to take into account how investments into agriculture sector can be increased substantially.
Okay, fair enough. Now let's get into, I think there are 2-3 issues that we need to cover head on. First is MSP. GVL, while I agree with Jaggi, cost plus 50% MSP formula was probably never realistic, never feasible. But having made that promise to the farmers of the country, why did the BJP go back on it?
No, that's a recommendation originally made by Dr. Swaminathan in some 2006 or 7 when the UPA was in power. That was the one-man commission that made that recommendation. I think in some crops, I think we have reached to the extent of 40-45%. But in some crops that could not be done. Given the global prices, there has been a substantial fall in food grain prices internationally post 2014, and therefore it would have become highly uneconomical to really give that kind of a hike and have very low value imports. And secondly, talking about the states of Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, where Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh have experienced as the highest growth rates in agriculture. So they have been progressive states. I think for anyone who thinks that Gujarat verdict is because enough has not been in agriculture, by that standard, I think every government should be getting voted out in the rest of the country. And Gujarat, we have won for the 6th time. And Madhya Pradesh, we have won 3 consecutive elections. And we will win this election again with a big mandate. And look at the Prime Minister's crop insurance scheme that has been launched only a year ago. It's doing rather very well. The rural roads, infrastructure investments in rural roads, per year, we are building twice the amount of roads that the UPA has built in the rural areas.
GVL, we will take up these points.
We have ensured financial inclusion under Jan Dhan and various schemes.
GVL, if I may interrupt you, we will take up these points, GVL.
Only 3 years ago.
Right,
and
GVL,
chief ministers.
GVL, we will take up these points, but I just want to get this argument out of the way on MSP, so I'd urge you to indulge me there. Let me get a comment in from Devinder Sharma, who's been a votary of this MSP plus 50%. Devinder Sharma, realistically, how realistic do you think is it for the government to implement this, cost plus 50% formula that MS Swaminathan recommended for minimum support prices at a time? I mean, if you do that, for example, in the case of paddy, MSP of paddy would be 2,226 per quintal. In place of the current, 1,500 odd per quintal, and MSP at such levels would essentially result in prices of some agri-commodities being much higher than global prices. Then, of course, import, then these products will be imported. I mean, realistically, is it feasible to have this cost plus 50% formula?
See, basically the entire economic design is like that agriculture has to be sacrificed to keep the economic reforms alive. Let me make it very clear. So it is the farmers who are actually subsidizing the country. They are being penalized to grow food. Now my problem is that if let's say if you look at farmers, they are producing wheat crop or paddy crop, as you rightly mentioned. Now why should we be penalized to grow that crop? If you are not able to raise prices, let's say you are not able to provide farmers with a minimum support price because you think the inflation will go up, then why don't you make a direct transfer into his bank account? Now we have Jan Dhan account. Why don't you make a transfer there? You know, if you can provide 4,80,000 crore as additional every year for the 7th pay commission, which covers only 1% of the population, why can't you provide 4,80,000 crore for 52% of the population is my question. There is no shortage of money in this country. It's only going to people who don't deserve it. That's the point I've been raising again and again. The corporates of India are actually thriving on subsidies. The moment you withdraw those subsidies, the corporates collapse. So let's be very clear about it. So why we can't pump in subsidies for agriculture? Now there are various ways to do it, and I am of the opinion that the best way, because MSP only caters to 6% of the farmers. You know, 94% farmers are already dependent on markets. If markets were so efficient and benevolent, farmers wouldn't have been committing suicide. So markets have failed. Let's be very clear about it. Now what do you do it is to bring in a farmers income commission. If you are honest to really help farmers, bring in a farmers income commission, change the name of the Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices, call it a Commission for Farmers Income and Welfare, make their task be how to provide farmers, a farmer family with 18,000 rupees per month as is a net income that he deserves. Why not? Why are we trying to penalize farmers for growing food? I think this country should be grateful to the farmers.
Devinder Sharma, I don't think, I get your point, and this country is of course grateful to farmers, and you made an emotional pitch there, and Jaggi, I want you to counter the point that Devinder Sharma has made there very emotionally, and a point that a lot of other people, Yogendra Yadav, make, saying that if we can afford to recapitalize Indian banks, you know, why can't and have a bullet train, why can't we look at higher MSP for farmers? You know, this argument gets thrown a lot and says that there is almost an urban bias when it comes to agriculture policy, and this is irrespective of the central government, whether it's a BJP or a Congress, that there seems to be an urban bias. This is a criticism that comes in from agriculture economists like Devinder Sharma. How do you respond to that, Jaggi?
Well, two things. One is I am no supporter of subsidies for industry just for the heck of it, and I'm against bailouts for businesses that fail or businesses that are crony capitalist based and which expect government handouts to survive. So on that part I am completely with Mr. Sharma, and I completely, but however, just because there has been a bad idea done in industry and business so far, it does not mean the same bad ideas must now be used in agriculture. More important, I want to counter this cost plus argument. I can tell you that's not the solution. The solution is not cost plus but higher productivity. If you can improve your agricultural productivity by say 30% or 50% by using more modern techniques and improving the size of the land parcels being grown or whatever it is, then you will get the same cost plus without making it expensive and unviable for the fiscal thing to support. I mean, this cost plus is a silly idea. You have to look at it the other way around. How do you raise productivity by 50% so that your prices do not go through the roof? I mean, that way the farmer will be benefited far more. The farmer, and more important, I think this so-called urban bias is also completely wrong. I think we need to be more and more urban biased, because only urban areas will provide the kind of jobs that will absorb the excess of farm this thing. If 45% of people are producing 15% of GDP, it is obvious that you have to move a huge chunk and millions of people into other jobs that are non-agriculture based, or at least quasi-agriculture chain based. They cannot be in agriculture. So you have to move towards more urbanization. And more urbanization means resources need to go there. That's where the jobs are not going to be in rural areas. Rural areas need higher productivity. They will have fewer jobs. This is the future.
It's a fair point you made, and Siraj Hussain, I want you to come in, because you've probably been a stakeholder when it comes to these decisions on MSP as a former agriculture secretary as well. Help us understand why do you believe that this cost plus 50% MSP formula is in some sense unrealistic?
Actually, it is not desirable, it is not possible to apply a formula of cost plus 50% across board. First of all, we have to realize that there are several crops. The farmers growing those crops are actually earning reasonably good money. Sugarcane is an example. Their fields are generally irrigated, their prices are assured. In some states, these state advised prices are higher than the FRP, that is equivalent of minimum support price. So the situation differs from state to state, from crop to crop. There are, of course, farmers who grow pulses in rain-fed areas or coarse grains in rain-fed areas. Their incomes are very low. But I fully realize that it is not possible and nor it is desirable to have a formula which will fix MSP at 50% plus cost. In any case, the government it is not possible for any government to procure everything the farmers offer. The governments cannot provide a solution to this problem in its entirety. Therefore, whether we like it or not, market-based solutions have to be found, the markets have to be freed, the restrictions imposed by governments from time to time on export of commodities, on stock limits, movement of commodities, etc., have to be withdrawn. At one point of time, I remember that the government of Andhra Pradesh, unified Andhra Pradesh at that time, banned the movement of Sona Masuri rice from Andhra Pradesh to Tamil Nadu. Now, what do the farmers do in such circumstances? You will recall that about 2-3 years back,
Right.
the government of West Bengal banned the movement of potato out of West Bengal.
Right.
So obviously the farmers pay a price.
Absolutely.
So cost plus
Is not
across
feasible.
the crops is not a feasible option.
Okay. Charan Singh Sapra, we lost a link with you, but we have you back. On the issue of MSP, the Congress's formula, economists argue, was disastrous. Of these radical increases in MSP, it had a clear effect on food inflation, which led to a macroeconomic disaster, for lack of a better word, in 2013, 2014. And I know you will sort of fault the BJP for not doing enough on MSP, but again, let me quote some figures there. Even in the case of BJP, one would argue MSP of wheat has gone up by 110 rupees per quintal this year. Overall, the hike in wheat MSP under NDA 2 has been 335 rupees per quintal, which is in 3 years, which is higher than the cumulative hike that we saw in wheat MSP, which is of 320 rupees during UPA 2. So I would argue that BJP or Congress, this like Jaggi pointed out, this incremental MSP increases is no good.
No, see, Bharatiya Janata Party had promised MSP plus 50%. See, the MSP has to increase periodically, that's okay. But when they promise and then they go back on their promise in the Supreme Court, the Advocate General gives a different report. I feel that is not good. Then the farmers also feel that this government is only interested in jumlebaji. So let me bring in two more important facts over here. One is, there are schemes for farmers' welfare. Continuously, if you see the data of these schemes, the budgetary allocation in the NDA government and the Modi government, they have reduced considerably. Like National Food Security Mission, in 2014, it was 1,799 crores. Now it has come down to 998 crores. Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, from 8363, it has come to 3559. National Horticulture Mission, from 1068 crores to 915 crores. Rain-fed area development, from 304 crores to 184 crores. Similarly, the Fasal Bima Yojana, which was a very good project which this government started. But the fact is that this Fasal Bima Yojana is helping the private empaneled companies more than the targeted farmers. The premium paid to the companies is many times more than the compensation paid to the farmers. I'll give you one example of Kharif 2016.
We will talk about Charan Singh Sapra. We will talk about Fasal Bima Yojana separately.
Kharif 2016, the premium paid was 17,184 crores.
Okay.
The compensation paid is 6,800 crores.
Okay.
So the net profit to these companies is 10,376 crores.
Okay.
So the empaneled companies have gained a profit of 10,376 crores.
Okay.
Instead of farmers, these empaneled companies
are the beneficiaries of the Fasal Bima Yojana. Okay, point taken.
So
I'm coming to you.
Needs to do correction in this.
Okay, Charan Singh Sapra, point made. You also, I'm happy you've come with figures and you also quoted figures on investment. So before I go to GVL, just want to place on record when it comes to agriculture investments in the budget in FY14, 29,772 crores was spent in the agriculture sector. In FY18, 51,026 crores. Just to place facts on the table. But GVL, I don't want this to be a BJP Congress debate because as you would understand, we're trying to look at issues beyond that. Loan waiver, right? 4 large states this year have embarked on massive loan waiver program. 2 of the BJP, 2 of the Congress. And together, the cumulative amount is 88,546 crores. That's $13.7 billion of farm loan waiver. And yet, we don't have a solution to the agrarian crisis. Is this the route that the BJP will continue to take? Or at least will you concede that the central government, because I'll tell you, a lot of people are worried that in the 2018 budget, the BJP will do what the Congress did going into the 2009 poll, embark on a massive farm loan waiver program and wreck the economy. Can you at least assure that that's the line which you're not thinking?
Yeah. Before I answer that, let me say this. I think the Congress party has this bad habit of selectively quoting statistics to suit an argument. This kind of falsification is not going to help. Rahul Gandhi has exposed himself repeatedly doing this. You have yourself given out numbers. You have given out selectively quoting. We have initiated irrigation program. Where are the numbers? We have initiated a Prime Minister Sinchai Yojana. Where are the numbers? I think you selectively quote only certain numbers to really fool people, and no one is going to get fooled except yourself. Now, coming to your question, I think this, you see, we could have easily announced a loan waiver in Gujarat. That's what the Congress party had done. So certainly we were fighting against a populist promise made by the Congress party in this election. And the promises they made in their manifesto add up to about 60% more than the annual budget of Gujarat state government. But they were dishonest. We could have easily made the same promises and then one bigger mandate. But we desisted from doing it because loan waivers was not the way to go about, in Gujarat particularly. In fact, I've spoken to hundreds of farmers and there is not even an expectation for loan waiver. I don't know what homework the Congress party does. They were only interested in getting the right price for their produce. To my mind, the real challenge is that, not giving a higher MSP. Can I just complete? Please let me complete.
Let him complete and he'll go to the other panelists as well. GVL, quickly.
I'm not just telling you something.
Yes, GVL, quickly. Yes, complete your point, GVL.
I'm saying it based on my own visits to the field. I have a... No, you see, the real challenge is, increasing an MSP, you don't procure every crop. I think increasing an MSP on paper for a number of crops, which the governments don't procure, is not going to, it's only an eyewash. So reality is ensuring that the farmers get remunerative price. For that, markets have to really be more efficient. We certainly, after the GST, the movement of goods has become easier. The levy of taxes has completely gone. Earlier, states used to levy something like 5 to 15% on purchase tax on agricultural commodities, even on procurement for the PDS, for the Food Corporation of India. Today, all that is gone. Central government has surrendered to the tune of 1.5 lakh crores by way of simply waiving off all taxes on agricultural commodities.
You made your point.
So you made your point. Huge benefit to the sector to bring in greater efficiency in.
GVL, you made your point. Let me go to Devendra Sharma, who I know is a big advocate of a farm loan waiver and who believes that the sector deserves a farm loan waiver. Devendra Sharma, I agree with you that one of the big, if you look at the key problems of the Indian farmer, the biggest probably is indebtedness. And so farm loan waiver, the face of it appears as the most sort of logical way to address the problem of indebtedness. But is it? Because years of farm loan waivers have done no good to the farmer. They've vitiated credit discipline in the agriculture sector and the rural economy. Does it really help? Devendra Sharma.
I think before I go to this issue of loan waiver, if you allow me, I think it is important to look at this argument that technology is very important to boost productivity, increase productivity, and that means increasing income of the farmers. I think this needs to be debunked once for all. In India we of course have low productivity in various crops, and we all know that. But when you look at Punjab, for that matter, when we compare low productivity, Punjab tops the world in the productivity in wheat and rice. It has the highest area under irrigation in the world, 98% assured irrigation, Punjab. Now, what more do you want to do to Punjab? It already tops the world yields, and yet Punjab has become a graveyard for farmer suicides. 16,000 suicides since the year 2000. This is what Punjab is today. Now, please tell me, all these mantras that we were thrown at us, raise productivity, have not worked. Actually, the problem is not productivity. The problem is that we deprive farmers of their income. We have successive governments have deprived farmers of the rightful income, and this is what I called as farm theft, just like the wage theft. This has been going on over the years. And then you say, oh, the farmer needs to raise productivity, we need to have cold chains. Actually, what we need is, yes, there is need for a lot of investment, but let's also understand investment is one part which is required. We have gone down over the years as far as public sector investment in agriculture is concerned. We need to bring it back. But more important, I find, is that you need to provide concrete evidence that you are raising farmers' income. Doubling the farmer is another jumla. We know it will not work. But what I want to look at it is what the farmer should do next month. After all, if his average income is 1,700 rupees for a family in 1 month in half the country, what do you expect him to do for the next 2 months is a question. So can't the country now repay back the farmers is my answer, is the question I want to ask. There has to be various mechanisms to do it, and as I've been saying, we have deprived farmers, we have shortchanged farmers, and we are actually been very happy killing farmers because that's how the economic reforms work. We need cheaper labor for the industry, and that's what our objective is. Push them out of agriculture, make them cheaper labor. I don't know what these economists are suggesting to us.
Let's talk about the policies. GVL spoke about some of the policies of the government, which on the face of it were pretty, appeared to be well thought through, whether it was the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, ENAM, etc., etc. Why have they not failed to have the impact that they should have had, Mr. Hussain? What do you blame it on? Is it because the execution has been poor? Is it because states haven't come on board? What could be the reason?
Actually, the implementation has been patchy in several states. Bihar, for example, did not pay its share of premium subsidy in 2016-17 till recently. So obviously, once you don't even pay the premium, you can't expect the insurance companies to honor the claims. However, it is possible for the government of India to persuade the state governments to accord very high priority to agriculture. We have shown how GST, for GST a consensus was built with the states. That kind of effort for agriculture is somehow missing, and we need to gather our resources so that all the states can be brought on board, and the BJP ruled states have to show by reforming their systems that it is possible to bring in marketing reforms. Let us start with marketing reforms. As I mentioned in the initial stages, it is not very difficult. It should not have to wait for several years. The state governments can show that they mean business by freeing up agriculture. However, I also realize that there are implementation issues in several state governments. The kind of priority which is required for agriculture, it is not there, and one reason is that farmers are not organized, and therefore the industrial lobbies are able to get what they want by way of waiving of loans or reschedulement of dues, etc. That is why we have this problem of NPAs, and the farmers on the other hand are not organized, especially at the national level they are not organized. Moreover, the problem is that different kinds of farmers have different issues. So the issues of agriculture in Punjab, as Dr. Devendra Sharma keeps writing, are different because there it is a water problem. It is not the issue of technology or the awareness of farmers or extension.
Okay.
So this has to be done state by state and in a very concerted manner.
Okay,
then only
fair
we
enough.
can address some of these issues.
Okay. Jaggi, we spoke about key issues of farmers. Indebtedness, of course, is one of them. The other is lack of assured markets and prices for farm produce. And again, the government came up with this ENAM program, a sort of national market that allows farmers to sell their produce. On the face of it, again, seemed like a good idea. But as Professor Ashok Gulati, says, when the basics are not in place, can we create a national market just by installing software on a computer? Harsh words, from one of India's renowned agriculture experts. What do you think has gone wrong with a program like ENAM? Is it too early? Are we too early? Are we not evolved enough to have a sort of national market? But because that seems like the most obvious solution to the problems facing the agriculture sector.
Yes, absolutely. Like the previous speaker has said, I think you have to get states to agree to a basic opening up of the markets where markets are not restricted to the state level. On the other hand, what the need to do is something more important, where states need to get primacy is in agriculture policy. My point is, it does not make sense for a center to create a one cap fits all agricultural policy beyond opening up of markets and reducing tariff and non-tariff barriers between states and for free movement and for exports. The point is, states, you cannot solve the problems of agriculture by sitting in Delhi, because the problems of agriculture in Tamil Nadu are quite different from the problems of agriculture in Assam. It's quite different from the problems of agriculture in Punjab. It's quite different from the problems of agriculture in Vidarbha. So I think it is at the state level that you need to draw up agricultural policy. At the central level, you merely need to get rid of the barriers to this thing, help in the marketing, create a national market so that farmers get a better price. The other point I would like to make is, I think Devendra Sharma is making one huge mistake. You cannot double farmers' incomes or triple farmers' incomes. You have to make you have to reduce the number of farmers. That's the only way. The individual's income has to be doubled or tripled by giving him more productive jobs. You cannot double farmers' income as long as he remains on farms. This is a fundamental economic thing that I don't know why people don't understand. How can you increase double the incomes of something like half the population? It's not possible. It is not possible in any country. I mean, USA went from 40% in farming to 2%. We may not do that that fast, but we still need to bring down the numbers in the farming thing.
Sure.
You have to increase incomes, not increase farmers.
Okay. Closing comments from my panelists. GVL, to you first. And I think everyone says that there are some, steps that need to be taken, some by the central government, some by the state government. The BJP now has control on 19 states. So therefore, frankly, you can no longer pass the buck, except for, Karnataka, which is another major agrarian state. Most other major agrarian states have the BJP in power. Will you take quick decisions? Will the government, intervene with reforms on agriculture markets? Will it open access to for farmers? Will it, will these export restrictions, be put to an end, like Mr. Siraj Hussain pointed out? Will arbitrary stocking limits go? These kind of interventions. Will the government take tough decisions on them?
No, I think you posed a lot of questions. Agriculture being a state subject, I think states will continue to take decisions that are important from the state's perspective. I don't think everything can be thrust down upon states, but certainly implementation has to be done by the states. At the same time, there has to be flexibility. There has to be envisioning done at the state level. We cannot sit everything in Delhi, New Delhi, and decide for all the states, even if the BJP were to be in power. But as far as trade policies are concerned, those are within the domain of the central government. And certainly, I think we need to take policies, trade policies that will protect the interests of the farmers and not just the consumers. Because I think there are, concerns in this area. I've been hearing some concerns in this area. I think government will certainly ensure that farmers are not at a disadvantage, and they get the best value for the money, for the produce they produce, and the markets become more efficient. After the GST, I think the movement of goods is not such a big problem, but certainly APMC reforms are something that each state will have to carry out. And some states, there is certainly some kind of a resistance. We need to encourage private investment, not just public investment. The private investment is a serious problem as per the marketing laws that exist. And there has to be an encouragement for private investment, more agri-industries to come up. Unless there is cold storage, unless there is better procurement, better scope for private players in the markets, I think this investment is not going to come by. I think any policies towards that end, I think, is something that the government may be looking for. I have no specific information to share, but I am hoping that this is the direction in which the government is likely to look at.
Okay, we all are hoping the direction. Charan Singh Sapra, just 30 seconds for you. And what's clear from this panel is that there needs to be a more federal approach to policy making when it comes to the agriculture sector. And we saw that with GST. Rahul Gandhi might call it the Gabbar Singh tax, but frankly, most decisions were taken by GST Council that had representation of the central government and state governments, including those of Congress-ruled states. Is that the way to go? Would the Congress support such an approach to the agriculture sector to look at reforms collectively between the centre and the states? Is that feasible? Will the Congress support such a move?
See, any policy which is in the favor of farmers, Congress party will definitely support that. But the government should bear one thing in mind, that whenever government dithers, the farmer suffers and the mafia prospers. I'll give you a short example of pulses. Like the import of pulses was allowed at 44 rupees per kg. And it was sold at rupees 202 or 230 rupees per kg. Thereafter, when we had a bumper crop of pulses in 2016-17 also, the import was still allowed. So the mafia prospered. Similarly, in wheat there is a less procurement. If you see the data of 2015-16 and 16-17, the government has procured less wheat. And on the other hand, the government has allowed import of wheat and reduced the import duty from 25% to 0%. So somewhere there is a mafia also involved in this. The mafia is prospering, whereas the farmers are suffering on this. So government has to clearly formulate a policy whereby the mafia does not prosper and the actual benefit goes to the farmers, whether that is MSP or whether it is the produce or whether it is the policy whereby they can increase their produce, they increase their production.
Okay. Mafia or no mafia, I tell you what, the farmer in the country is suffering for a whole variety of reasons, political, non-political. It's time to look at some out-of-the-box solutions. Band-aid solutions, legacy solutions are not going to take us anywhere. We need to look at some out-of-the-box solutions. Some of them were pointed out by this wonderful panel on this edition of India Development Debate. I'd like to thank all my panelists for joining me on the show this evening. Thanks so much for being with ET Now. Good night.